Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Anyway, I never finished my story.
Is this about Jose Ferrer? No, George Gaines.
It's about George Gaines. So in To Be or Not to Be, he's an actor, and he's always preparing his lines. And he's always doing this. When he's preparing to act, he's always going, me, my, mo, me, my, mo. And I find myself doing that. And I'm like, where is that coming from?
Why do you think that's a part of your life? Why do you think you do that?
I don't know.
Is it because you're channeling George Gaines?
Apparently it's more of an influence on my life than I ever realized.
That's terrible.
Yes.
That's
George
funny.
Gaines.
That's good. No, I'm glad for you.
George Gaines is 95. He was in, I think, all of the Police Academy movies and Wag the Dog.
Well, that was good. So that was the to be or not to be story.
That was the story, yes.
Would you like to talk about some trailers? No,
I've
let's talk
watched
about you. Let's talk about you.
Oh,
first.
let's.
Now,
So-
I've done some studying up on you, and I happen to know that you can be found online at sodacreekfilm.com. Is that right?
Wow, you found me out.
I did. I hunted you down. Where else would you like people to go?
They can tweet me at Soda Creek Film or find me on Facebook at Soda Creek Film.
How are you feeling about
Fast
Facebook?
Pixel.
Are you liking Facebook? Do you spend a lot of time there?
The Facebook, yeah, it's a comfortable place.
It's
I guess
good.
that's a word you can way to describe it.
So you don't think terribly heavily about Facebook, do you?
I don't dwell on it, I guess. You know.
Good. That's good. You don't want to stress about stuff you don't have to. You know what they say? A wise man once said, worry is interest paid on a debt that never comes due.
Yes.
Do you know what? Do you have it? Do you know what that's from?
I don't know what that's from.
Are you serious?
What's that from?
I'm not going to tell you.
Wait, say it again.
No, I'm not going to tell you that.
Oh.
It's one of my favorite lines of all time. It's like if there were a list of my favorite lines, another list. I'm actually writing this one down. The favorite lines list. Favorite line. And it's not favorite quotes. Favorite single lines. Can't be a multi-line thing. Favorite lines list. This one is at the top of mine. And followed shortly after by No! That'd be my second one. Do you know what that one's from? Do you know what that's from?
Jesus.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear me. Dear me.
I don't know. What's it not from? I feel like we're already gone on some strange tangent.
Worry is interest paid in advance on a debt that never comes due.
It sounds familiar.
Jeez.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, you're going to figure that out for next week. I'm going to let you have that, and you're going to give it to me. Or if anybody can figure it out before Andy, he's probably already figured it out, right?
I'm trying.
They already got it.
Oh, here we go.
Darn it. If this were a live show and we had a chat room, you'd have totally lost.
I know.
Chat room knows all.
It's from The Spanish Prisoner. Is that right?
Yes.
George Lang says it.
I love that movie. I love that. Why have we not done that movie? That's one of my top movies. I need to go rank that on Flickchart right now.
I've only seen that once.
Oh.
Can you believe it? I know.
That hurts me.
That's a long time ago.
I have clips I want to hear. You had an assignment to go watch some trailers, and then I have 2 new ones I want to talk about. No,
okay.
3. I have 3 new ones I want to talk about.
3 new ones.
Yeah. Yep.
I have a few that we should talk about, but yeah.
I wonder if they match.
So anyway.
That'll be good.
We'll see if they match.
Yeah. Yep.
So what trailers do you want to talk about?
Did you watch the ones from last week? Did any of them interest you? We had Django Unchained. You had already seen
Django Unchained, and that's
3. Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. Yeah. 360, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Cosmopolis, and People Like Us.
People Like Us, I had seen the trailer for, and that's interesting. I think Perks of Being a Wallflower looks cute. It'll be a cute little kind of a summer independent movie sort of thing.
Totally agree.
And I totally forgot to watch 360 because it disappeared from. I was searching for all of the new trailers, and it wasn't appearing on iTunes, and so therefore it was almost like it didn't exist.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah, so I completely left that one out.
All right. It's my bad because I don't think I put them in the show notes last week. I need to do that. That was totally my bad.
I blame you.
You should. I'll own that. Okay, so there are 3 that I would like to add to our list of movies to think about. Flight, Denzel's new movie.
Yes.
Have you seen this one?
I have seen that one.
Let me just say as an aside, I'm ranking The Spanish Prisoner right now on Flickchart, and the first ranking for me is The Spanish Prisoner against Lost in Translation. Easy. That's an easy one. Okay. So the Flight was the first one. I think it looks really interesting. It's one of those movies I think that is going to test the way you think about good and bad and sort of the nature of what it means to be rescued if you're rescued by potentially the guy who puts you in danger, right? I mean, that's sort of the nature of moral right and wrong. And I think that's interesting, particularly in light of the movie we're talking about tonight. The second one that I am still fascinated by.
Wait. Do I get to say anything?
Oh, about Fly. Oh, yeah. No, we should. You should. I thought you weren't interested. I thought you didn't like Denzel.
No. Did you know that this is it's Robert Zemeckis' next motion capture movie, and it's all motion capture?
Flight is?
Nah, just pulling your chain.
I was gonna have to come to Arizona and just be with you. That's such brilliant stuff. We're just gonna have to sit together and watch the trailer together. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's
a lie.
It's his first live action movie since 2000, since What Lies Beneath and Castaway. So he's finally coming back to real people.
That's good. That's good. I look forward to that.
But it looks great. I'm excited about that one.
Totally. I think that looks really good. The second one that I'm just really fascinated by. I have no idea really what to make of it. Now I feel like I know the story a little bit more. But the second trailer hit this week for The Master.
That's going to be a very interesting one. I heard. Was it you who was telling me that that Paul Thomas Anderson took it to get Tom Cruise's blessing? And it didn't work out so well. No,
it was not me. Tell me the story. I'm actually
that was it. That was the story.
Oh, good story.
He wanted Tom Cruise's blessing because it's about the creation of Scientology, and Tom Cruise was not a fan, apparently.
Wow, Cruise.
Yeah, but because they were buddies from Magnolia.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it looks interesting. I've only seen the one trailer.
The first one. The first Joaquin Phoenix trailer.
Yeah.
And this one is much more interesting to me because it reveals Philip Seymour Hoffman as the sort of brilliant kind of intellectual megalomaniac, and it reveals more of their relationship, and it's just fascinating. The trailer is titled "Hopelessly Inquisitive," and I love titles. I love how he's doing these trailers with titles. I believe this one is cut by Paul Thomas Anderson as well, and it just really holds up. It's a fascinating sort of mini film. It's a short.
Actually, I take it back. That is the one that I watched.
So you haven't seen the one that's the drifter on the beach?
No, I guess I haven't seen that one. No, just Hopelessly Inquisitive.
Well, there's another. You should see it.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. It was a fascinating trailer. I actually had no idea what the story was because I didn't read the little blurb that went with it, and even though I had heard about this film, for some reason it didn't click, and it didn't put two and two together until afterward. So very interesting. It's going to be a really interesting story to see about.
Let's see the third one, and I think you will know immediately why.
Oh, I already know.
Okay, let's just say it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Pitch Perfect.
Perfect.
That's right.
Oh, I knew that one was coming up.
Oh, yeah. Totally. You know what? We should just do an episode on that movie before it even comes out.
Oh, that was too funny.
Rival a cappella groups. I don't know if I don't know what's happening here. It's the convergence of the sing-off reality television and Glee, and I don't know what else. But it's we've got some street acapella.
Yeah, Ben Folds' album.
It's good. I can't wait. I love me some acapella.
That
makes me a certain kind of person, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Well, you done got yourself a pretty voice.
I sing like a bird, eats like a horse, and whistles like a bird. Something like that. Whistles like a bird and eats like a horse, Clark. Let's talk about your trailers. What do you want to talk about?
Well, it was just kind of a fascination by two trailers for Ethan Hawke. He has two new movies coming out, and he's, I don't know where Ethan Hawke's been these days, but
yeah, man, he just disappeared.
Yeah, he kind of goes through these phases where I don't know if he goes off and writes poetry or what he's doing, but he kind of seemed to disappear for a little while. And all of a sudden, he's like back with these two new trailers. The first one is, and they're both kind of creepy sounding. The first one is called Sinister. It's it says it's, it's not a found footage film. He finds footage. He's a true crime novelist. They move into a new house. He finds a box of old found footage in the attic with a projector, and he starts playing it. And it's the family that was murdered in the home. And all of these reels are essentially murders happening. And he sees this creepy face in the footage. And once this face, this supernatural monster that Vincent D'Onofrio tells him about, once he sees you through the footage, then of course, you're screwed. So it's an interesting little horror movie that he's doing.
I really like Vincent D'Onofrio.
He's good.
I think he's great. I think this is one of those movies that could come out as just being a really, hopefully scary and interesting film, because it's got two really. I find I think Ethan Hawke and Vincent D'Onofrio are Vincent D'Onofrio in particular is one of the most sort of compelling character actors at work. Yeah. And I think I'm sort of ashamed that he got so kind of stuck on. I don't know. Is it stuck when you get on a Law and Order show?
I don't know. I mean, it's
probably not for
that
him,
sure...
but I'm just not a huge fan of those shows. So
yeah, well, it certainly fills your pocket with a nice wad of cash. So
it'll be good to see what he's up to. What are you gonna say? Vigilantia?
No, the other one that he was in. So that was Sinister, right?
Yeah.
And then the other Ethan Hawke movie that's coming out, actually, it may have already come out limited. It's called The Woman in the Fifth, and this is Ethan Hawke and Kristen Scott Thomas in this mystery story that takes place in France. Let me just read this synopsis from iTunes. American writer, and again, he's playing a writer. It's really weird. Yeah. Two like horror suspense sort of movies, and he's a writer. And I was really confused because at first I thought I was reading the same thing, and yeah. So American writer Tom Ricks arrives in Paris to be closer to his young daughter, who's living with his estranged ex-wife. Completely broke, he accepts a job as a night guard for a local crime boss. Stationed in a basement office, his only task is to push a button when a bell rings. Sounds awfully like Lost.
Oh, yeah.
The tranquility of the night, he hopes, will help him focus on his new novel. His days become more exciting when he starts a romance with Margit, a mysterious and elegant widow who sets strange rules to their meetings. She will only see him at her apartment in the 5th arrondissement at 5 p.m. sharp, twice a week, and he should ask no questions about her work or her past life. When people suddenly start dying around Tom, he begins to believe that a dark force has entered his life, punishing anyone who has recently done him wrong. After the police accuse him of murdering his neighbor, Tom tries to use his weekly visits to Margit's apartment as an alibi, only to find out that she hasn't lived at this address for the past 15 years.
Interesting.
It totally sounds just like the other movie.
Yeah, it really
does.
In
a very weird way. It's like, God, he's a writer and he's got this like dark element that enters his life and his child is in danger. And there's this mysterious person or being that doesn't really seem to be there. It's like, what?
So we need to watch that. So that apparently it did come out. Did it come out already, or is it June 15th?
Yeah, the 15th. Well,
that was it. So it just came out.
It just came out limited. It's a foreign thriller. I don't know how wide of a release it got, but
okay. So that's
So I just found it really odd that those two films with Ethan Hawke came out or are coming out and seem very similar.
Well, and so Sinister comes out. He's an author, and then we have which will also come out. Let's see. Sinister hits October 5th.
Yeah.
Just before that, September 7th, we have The Words, which is a Bradley Cooper writer movie. Have you heard about this one?
No.
This Bradley Cooper's another guy to watch. I was Limitless is one of my favorite movies of this of last year. I just think he's a really compelling actor, and I think he's got an interesting angle on sort of the way he approaches his performances, and The Words looks really good. It's directed by I don't know these people, Brian Klugman and Lee Sternthal.
I don't either.
And they wrote and co-directed, starring Bradley Cooper, Dennis Quaid, and Olivia Wilde. Hello. Where he ends up stealing another man's work, and it's sort of a suspense kind of drama, thriller, romance about the price one pays for stealing another man's work.
Wow. A lot of weird author suspense films coming out, because then there's that Francis Ford Coppola one with Val Kilmer.
Exactly.
So quite a popular time.
Fat Val.
You're going to run into him one of these days.
I can only say that because I need to watch what I eat myself this summer. Let's just say that. All right. So, okay, man, those are some good. It's like a conspiracy theory of writer movies.
I know, it's very strange.
It's got to be it's a cabal.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. My.
What else do we need to talk? Do we need to talk about anything else before we jump into tonight's main course? Had such a good time, by the way. Can I just tell you how good a time I had in our hangout last week?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do more of them.
We should be doing one right now, one would think.
One would.
The first comment on our YouTube page was, you guys need to go out and get a bar and in some really coarse language, get some real dates. I thought that was good.
Oh, nice.
That's good advice.
That's good friendly advice.
Yeah. I took the liberty to remove that comment, because what are you going to do with that? Because that's not constructive.
Yeah, where's that going to go?
Yeah.
Right.
What were you going to say? You had something to say.
Well, I had another brief trailer to mention, only because it is in a way kind of a lead in to tonight's discussion. There's a new foreign film coming out called Extraterrestrial. It looks like, I don't know, I didn't see where it's from, but they speak Spanish, so, one of the Spanish-speaking countries. And it looks like a comedy, except there also happens to be a UFO that arrives and, all the people start disappearing or something like that. And it looks pretty funny. It looks kind of cute. And in the trailer, it has a quote from Jason Reitman saying the Woody Allen of alien films or something like that. So I was like, oh, our buddy Jason Reitman.
The Woody Allen of alien films. Is this the Nacho Vigalondo film?
Is that whose it is? Yes, Nacho Vigalondo.
Vigalondo.
Yes. So apparently
Excellent.
He is the... See, now I'm going to have to play the trailer again to see what it is that Jason said. He's the Woody Allen of something or other.
Michelle Jenner is the lead actress, and she is the Spanish voice for Emma Watson in the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, that's interesting.
There you go.
So, yeah, see, it doesn't say where it's from.
Hola.
Spain. Where are you seeing Spain?
Spain. Original release is 23rd March in Spain.
Okay, you're actually looking on a page that has more information than iTunes.
Yeah, I am. I'm
the
on
Woody
IMDb.
Allen of science fiction. There it is. The Woody Allen of science fiction. So, not specifically alien movies. Although, in a weird way, now I've connected our last series to our current series. Alien films, Jason Reitman.
And Jason Reitman. We're going to do... it occurred to me that,
that was horrible.
I checked our release calendar, and it's not on there, tonight's movie. I worried a little bit that I watched the wrong movie. Which movie are we doing?
We're doing Thank You for Smoking.
Oh, good. Okay, good. That's good. I watched that.
And it is on there.
I don't see it.
Oh, well.
Okay, well, that's all right. I'll get my head straight. But we're doing Jason Reitman, Thank You for Smoking. Why? This is I love this movie. I really love this movie.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. A lot of people didn't like it when it came out, though, but I love it.
Why do you think that is? I have a theory, but I really want to hear yours first.
Well, my theory is, is based on a book, and obviously there's always going to be, I think more criticism seems to come when things are based on books. I don't know if that's really true. I haven't scientifically studied that, but that's my theory for this evening. And I think the book is a great satire on political correctness and all of that. And I think a lot of people seem to feel that the film watered down some of that that satire, and it didn't quite. It stuck with a lot more of the funny and the comic, but didn't have as much of the satire. And I didn't really feel that. I felt it worked, but apparently that's, I think, what a lot of people had problems with. What do you think?
Well, I think that's true. I think coming off of on the point of the book specifically, it was written by Christopher Buckley, who is the son of William F. Buckley, and I think that it's sort of a partisan family, I mean, and so there is a certain, and I think William F. Buckley is I think that the family has produced some really brilliant rhetoric. And that's what they are more than anything. They are rhetoricians. They are in the very classical sense. And I think that that the tone of the book is one that I think people expected more to be in the vein of Christopher Buckley rather than where it ended up, Jason Reitman. I think
son of Ivan Reitman.
Son of Ivan Reitman, exactly. And so, who also is sort of, who comes from the same sort of where we have the rhetorical empire here, we have the sort of comedic empire. And I think that there's something to be said for that. What remains in the movie, from the book is the really sort of, beautiful dance of the satire that I don't think people get on one viewing, one or two viewings. You watch this movie, one or two times, and you walk away thinking it's a smoking movie. It's a cigarette movie. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's a cigarette movie.
No.
And I think it takes a bit to ingest what this movie is really about. That's my pitch. I think people sort of look at it one movie, and it can, if you look at it sort of superficially like that, you could walk away from the movie saying, okay, well, it's a cigarette movie, and cigarettes are kind of played out. Like, we get that there are people who really love to smoke, and we get that there is now evidence that says cigarette smoking can kill you, and it does bad things to your organ systems, and secondhand smoke is bad. We get all that, and okay, it's funny to laugh at the Merchants of Death bit, but mostly we get it. And if you don't dig deeper at the nature of what this movie is really poking at, you might miss it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are fans of the book, they saw the changes, particularly the much larger role that the son plays in the film. Mm-hmm. And it just, it felt like they were just changing it because, I think a lot of people, when the book came out, when did the book come out? It was in the 90s. It was like 94. It was one of those books that people dubbed kind of unfilmable. They didn't really have a clear path to make it. And by boosting the son, it gave the audience a better way to connect to the protagonist, Nick Naylor. And I think a lot of people felt that it did water down that satire and the what Christopher Buckley was talking about in his book, and made it something that, kind of was just a little more, I don't want to say schmaltzy, but it just had a little bit, heart rather than satire, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah. Well, okay, so judging the movie as it stands, what is the movie telling you? I mean, what is the movie trying to say? What's the message of Nick Naylor and his son, and how successfully do you think the movie gets it across?
Well, I think you're right. It's not a smoking movie. It's a movie, and I think he actually makes it pretty clear at the end. I felt the first time I saw it, and every time since then, I think that his speech at the end, when he's speaking before the committee, and he says, it's about parenting and thinking and teaching somebody, particularly if you are a parent, teaching them to think for themselves and make their own choices. That's to me what it's about. And whether, if you're a good parent or if you're, a good person and you're teaching somebody, you're going to give them all the knowledge that they can and the wisdom that you can give to them, and let them choose for themselves. And that's a sign of a person growing and learning and becoming a thinker. And if that person, after learning all of that, and then they decide, well, I'm going to become a smoker anyway, you did what you had to do, And yes, he speaks on behalf of cigarettes, but this is America, and we need those people. We need those lawyers to defend the criminals, because that's part of our system. Just like we needed, thinking back to the People versus Larry Flint, we needed that Larry Flint to go before the Supreme Court, to defend pornography and the right to put that out into the world. It's our right to have that stuff out there. But as parents, we are the people who are responsible for teaching our children to what these things are and how to think about them and how to deal with them, so that when they grow up, hopefully they will make choices that we think are right.
Yes. I agree with all of that. I feel like you just gave me a speech that I should be reading on Wiki quote. And then in episode what's a number, Andy Nelson actually shared his triumphant speech on the power of education in America. That was good. That was good. I didn't want to interrupt you.
That's right under your Spanish prisoner.
I have it
line, right?
I think that what is there is the layer of that gets to me about what this movie is really, and I love the speech, and I love when he I think there is a really elegant sort of play at the end, and I think that's one of the things that they really kept in the Naylor character from the book, which is this idea that Naylor himself is a rhetorician, right? Yeah. He is an expert at rhetoric and at language and at making arguments that cause Senator Finisterre to really trip up. I mean, the whole bit where we have William H. Macy, the great state of Vermont will not apologize for its cheese. I think it's just
great line.
It is
William H. Macy came up with, by the way.
It is, well, it's a terrific line, and it's seems like that's a line he would come up with. It is a fantastic sort of interplay that he sort of is able to, that Reitman sort of creates and is able to back, these politicians of the corner. And what we're really looking at there is an example of the power of the lobby. And that I think is the ultimate underlying satire of this film, is that we're looking at not cigarettes. We're looking at the power of corporate money in America. And what this movie celebrates, if anything else, is the fact that we're in trouble because there are people like this out there on the roads of our country I would submit that the film is saying, that are steering us in a direction that better suits them. And he has this wonderful conversation with his son.
Yep.
Where they're talking about the nature of responsibility, and they're talking about, as they're walking down the sort of the darkened streets of Los Angeles, and he's trying to explain what he does. And what he comes down to is, just like a criminal who, everybody seems to believe maybe did do it, deserves a rigorous defense. He says, so do corporations deserve a rigorous defense.
Right.
And I think that's a really powerful message of this film, as schmaltzy as critics of the film may say that it was. I think the delivery of that message at its very core is I've talked about this before. It's this idea of a filmmaker, and I think Jason Reitman is a terrific example of the kind of filmmaker who really does this, is to hold up a mirror to the culture in which, the film exists and say, I want you to examine something by looking at the mirror, and I'm going to shine a big light on it, and I'm going to strip out the other stuff that might make that message kind of noisy, and I'm going to present it to you in a way that you can see it and digest it, and maybe make some new, better informed decisions, or maybe inspire you to do some research on your own. And the way he approaches sort of the kind of delicacy with which he approaches the power of the lobby through satire, I think is second to none in this film. I think this film really has staying power in that regard.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another conversation he has with his son, which actually I think falls immediately after the one that you mentioned, which I feel is one of my favorites in the film, is when he's teaching his son about this sort of debate, or how to have these conversations. Where
right when they're eating on the boardwalk.
Yeah, they're on the boardwalk, and there's no clear definition about which side is right or wrong. And they're talking about ice cream. He said, you are trying to prove that vanilla ice cream's the best, and I'm trying to prove chocolate's the best. And that whole conversation about how there's really no way to prove which is the best. What he's trying to do is just prove that the other person's wrong. And he's not trying to actually convince that other person to switch sides. He's trying to convince everybody else that that person's wrong, so that they turn to his side. It's a very interesting way to portray what it is that he's actually trying to do, and what lobbyists try to do, and how they work, and the spin. It's all about the spin.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that scene is sort of the punctuation of the opening scene of the film on the Joan London show, where we're introduced to Cancer Boy and Nick Naylor and Goody and all the other sort of representatives of the other side of the discussion, and we see in Technicolor, so to speak, Nick Naylor take the general tone and tenor of the conversation and turn it on its ear in the most elegant display of evil in terms of the broader discussion and the distinction of what the cigarette industry, the cigarette lobby is doing. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the film goes about explaining it, I think, in a really wonderful way. Can we talk a little bit about Nick Naylor, the character arc of Nick Naylor? Because I find him so fascinating.
Yeah. Let's.
So I think this story, my general impression of the story, when you look at sort of Naylor's journey through it, is that it is designed in some way to humiliate him, right? I mean, this is supposed to not necessarily humiliate, that's a bad word, but to humble him in some way.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. And I think there are three really key points, three really key sort of moments that lead to that humbling. This complex calculus of the humbling journey of Nick Naylor. The first is his, he is in a position of power leading up to, for the first 15 minutes or so. And he goes into BR and they have their big meeting about how they're going to resuscitate big tobacco. And he suggests that we need to get cigarettes in the movies. And then he's summoned to the captain, and he discovers that, in fact, BR has taken credit for his idea.
Right.
And yet the captain, the big boss of tobacco, somehow sees through it and says, I want you to report directly to me. Right. You kind of get this feeling that the captain has sort of buffeted the humiliation a little bit with a wink and a nod, saying, I know BR is not that great. He's a lot of bluster. The subtext that I'm reading out of that is that he's a lot of bluster. And in fact, I get it. I get that you're the go-getter, and I want you to report to me on this Hollywood thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Go ahead.
Fantastic. I was just going to say that's a fantastic scene because of how well it's written. And I haven't read the book. I can't compare the two, but it's just so beautifully done where there's nothing on the nose about it.
No, it's so true.
It's so clean. It's
so true. And that scene sort of lasts through several locations, and it finally, the sort of the ellipsis at the end of this really elegant, you can't really underscore the performances of Aaron Eckhart and Robert Duvall as the captain is so subtle. And at the end, when Duvall sort of leans out and says, family takes care of its own, or tobacco takes care of its own, your family now, tobacco takes care of its own.
Right.
It's just perfect. I mean, it's just perfect. So, he's sort of rescued from that first humbling moment, right?
Right. Yep.
Then he goes to California. And now he's humbled in his street education. When he sees this community that he visibly does not understand. And I find this wonderful when he is introduced to a $7,000 koi and you see his reaction, his physical reaction. He does not understand a $7,000 fish. Right. Everything he's seen, he does not understand it. And finally, he is introduced to Rob Lowe and introduced to the concept of future smoking after we get all the smoking is dangerous thing when cigarettes are safe, smoking on a space station. And he realizes and he says, I could learn a lot from this guy. Mm-hmm. Right? That he is humbled.
Yep.
Then he's asked to go, to do the payoff, right?
Right.
He's asked to go to do the payoff. He's got to pay off the former Marlboro Man, and this scene is unreal. So I'm going to stop my diatribe and let you talk about this because I really want to hear what you think about this scene. When you are set up on this scene that he's feeling humbled, he is in this point of weakness, and you feel like the dramatic arc is leading you to some sort of a realization, a rationalization, a demonstration of his learning, of the nature of his learning, and he gets in front of Sam Elliott, brilliant former Marlboro Man. I'm sure he's living the dream, and he twists it, and all of a sudden you realize halfway through that you think he's making a case that really supports, Elliot's character and really supports him taking the money and making a big stink and actually but it turns out he wasn't being honest at all. You think it's the first time you actually are getting a glimpse of honesty in this character, but he doesn't have it at all.
Well, see, I don't know if I would say that. I feel he is honest, and I feel that everything he does has this version of honesty. It's just a different view of honesty, because I think he's right. I think everything he says to the Marlboro Man, to Sam Elliott, is true. But he spins that presentation of the money to him in such a unique way where, using the truth, he totally turns the entire situation on the Marlboro Man.
He does.
And turns it into a situation where he knows that Sam Elliott is going to take the money.
Well, and that's the nature of spin, right? Because all he presents are facts. All he presents is the current reality as it exists right now. I have a briefcase full of money. It's a payoff. It's designed to shut you up. If you take the money, you have to shut up because there's no other way to do this. Or you take the money, you don't shut up, and you become a figurehead for the anti-smoking thing. But either way, you don't get the money or you shut up.
Yeah.
Okay? And so it's all real. I mean, that is all sort of truth. But the nature of spin is taking reality and putting it in such a way that the only decision that can be made is one that is serving the spinner.
Exactly. And it's a fascinating scene because you're right. He goes into that, and we go into that with him. I mean, he's walking into a house with a man who's holding a rifle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right from the start, we're not at ease, and we feel he's not in his element. He wasn't planning on this trip to visit Lorne, and he goes into this house, and we don't think that he's got this plan worked out. And then he starts talking, and you realize partway through, wow, he has had this figured out from the start.
Well, and I think even more importantly than from the start, he's had it figured out way before we ever did.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the upshot, that he knew how this was, or did he? And I guess that's the question. Did he go in any sort of enlightened state and actually sort of have this recognition kind of down the road? I don't know if that's the case.
I think his line that he says afterward to his son, when his son asked him how he knew the guy was going to take the money, he said, you
got to be crazy.
I didn't, but I knew if I went and I looked at him and he wasn't crazy, that he wouldn't take the money, because he'd be crazy not to take that money.
Okay, so that's the next point of sort of the humbling data point on Nick Naylor's journey. The next one is the actual humiliation of the article that Katie Holmes. What?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the kidnapping. I don't know if that's really humbling, but
I guess it is. Yeah.
To a certain extent, it's just making him more aware of some of the realities of the world that he's in.
No, you're right. Yeah, that is yet another one. And so we have the the taking the idea, stealing the idea for Hollywood, the trip to California, the payoff, the kidnapping, and then the humiliation.
Yeah.
Right. And they all get successively bigger. The stakes get successively higher in each of these, right? And so he is being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and tobacco pushes him away, and he's ousted from the family. And here we're at this point where the character grows stronger, foments his own future, or he changes.
Right.
And I think this is the part that makes Nick Naylor so interesting. That at the end of the film, the Merchants of Death have actually grown in ranks, adding, looks like biohazard, big oil, and the food lobbies to their mix.
Right.
And Naylor is, not only is he still effectively a lobbyist, he's teaching others how to spin.
Right.
So has he grown? Has he changed? Does that make it more rewarding to us or less as an audience? What's your take?
Well, there's two different paths that your protagonist can really take through the course of a film. There's the course where they grow, and there's the course where they don't grow. What's key is that if your protagonist is somebody who is going to have a growth over the course of the film, they're a bad person. Over the course of the film, they learn a lot of little things, and they decide to be a good person at the end, right? There's going to be a person, a character that they learn from over the course of the film, and that person is going to help that person make that transition. Likewise, you can have a protagonist who essentially remains steadfast over the course of the film, and then what's going to happen is they are going to end up influencing a character in the film to actually make a change. I think Nick Naylor falls into that second category. He grows stronger in his belief that talk is not cheap, but it's his job, it's his livelihood. He's good at it, and even if working with the tobacco companies is not the right place, he's going to find a way to make it work. And he makes the right decision to leave them in the end and start his own company and move forward and move onward. You could say that's a change, but I don't think that's really a change. I would probably say that the relationship story with his son that's where the change happens. And his son goes from somebody who doesn't really understand this world of spin to somebody who now by the end of it, he's gone and become somebody who knows how to give a speech that can win him awards. And he's learned the art of BS. And I think that's the nature of Nick Naylor in this film. And I think it's a very solid. I mean, there is still growth in him, but it's all growth in kind of the same direction. It's not like we're watching a big transition in this character.
Well, and that's, I think, what's so interesting, because the character that he portrays, in fact, has sort of likable characteristics. But he's doing a thing that many find kind of repellent.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and some people would call him an antihero.
Antihero, exactly. And that's what's so interesting, because we've got some of these characters in sort of popular culture right now. Nick Naylor, one of them. We've got Dexter, is another big one right now. It's this idea that we have these antiheroes, these we're following these characters who are we generally dislike, and yet by the nature of the story that we're being told, we are put in a position of having to root for them in some way.
Yeah. Right?
In all of this, I'm rooting for Nick Naylor to learn something and to change and to grow and to teach his son a great lesson and to do that. And unlike the other sort of character arc you're describing, in Nick Naylor's case, we're begging as an audience for other characters around him to learn lessons at his expense.
Yeah.
And I think this movie does that very well. And also, illustrates some things about, through the use of satire about our political system that are important for us to know. And I think that's what makes this an important movie. The most depressing line in the film is the closing line. Michael Jordan plays ball. Charles Manson kills people. I talk. Everyone has a talent. And you want something else to happen. And all you know is that now he's teaching, telecom executives how to respond to the press when confronted with cell phones and radiation and tumors.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the next great frontier. So
right.
So it makes me both sort of love Nick Naylor for what he is, and it makes me really hate him that much more for what he represents. And that I think is the message that Reitman certainly wanted to get by. And he did it in a way that was it wasn't a blunt instrument. I think he did it with a real scalpel in terms of the story itself.
Well, and, it's, but again, going back to the idea of, I completely agree with you. I think that what he's doing with this film is genius. But the nature of telling his son, the dangers of smoking, and he says this in the I can't remember if he says it in the film or if it's something that Reitman said and something I saw, but everybody knows smoking is bad. Smokers know smoking is bad. Why do we need to keep spouting on about how bad smoking is? We all know. The nature of it is we just need to be talking about it, and we need to make people aware, and it's I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's the nature of talk, and I think that's what this film is about. It's the spin, but it's also just talking. And there's a little difference there, but I think what he talks to his son about several times is a lot about the spin, but by doing so, I think he's also talking to his son, and in a way, kind of teaching his son that there are bad things out there, and I will guide you and let you know what I think the bad things are, but I want you to be able to make your own decision if you think it's bad or not.
Well, and that gets directly to the power of talk versus the power of message. Mm-hmm. And I think we get the first sort of real message at the end of the film in Naylor's speech. Gentlemen, it's called education. It doesn't come off the side of a cigarette carton. It comes from our teachers, and more importantly, our parents. It's a job of every parent to warn their teachers. Like, you can really feel that he is, he's talking about something that he believes in, not something that he's had to convince himself to believe in. I look at my son, who was kind enough to come with me today, and I can't help but think that I'm responsible for his growth and his development, and I'm proud of that. Well, having said that, would you condone him smoking? Finisterre says. Well, of course not. He's not 18. That would be illegal. Yes, I've heard you deliver that line on 2020, but enough dancing. What are you going to do when he turns 18? Come on, Mr. Naylor. On his 18th birthday, will you share a cigarette with him? Will you spend a lovely afternoon like one of your ludicrous cigarette advertisements? You seem to have a lot to say about how we should raise our children. What of your own? What are you going to do when he turns 18? If he really wants a cigarette, I'll buy him his first pack. Yeah. And that is at the end of the movie, this is a message we should not be celebrating. We should not be celebrating this message, but that's what the art of this of this film is. You want to celebrate the message.
Yeah.
You want to celebrate that is a point of honesty. That's a point of the message that he really believes.
Exactly.
It's brilliant. It is really brilliant.
It is. It's a great film for a first film in particular. I mean, this was Jason Reitman's first film. I mean, obviously he grew up in the business. He kind of had a little more of an in, I guess you could say, and had been around his father's sets, had done short films, had done commercials and all that. But for a first film, I thought this was pretty great.
Well, first film, and he was 29 when he made this movie. I was not. I was pretty dumb when I was 29. I was not this smart when I was 29. This is a really artful film. This was really beautifully done. What else should we talk about with regard to the production, sir?
Well, it's interesting. Mel Gibson actually bought the rights to Buckley's novel back around when it came out. He wanted to be in it, but again, like I said earlier, nobody could figure out how to adapt the script. It was one of those scripts that just they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't crack. Jason Reitman, somebody had given this to him as a gift, the book, and he read it and was like, oh my God, I have to do something with this. He found out that Mel Gibson had the rights, contacted him, tried, I guess he did convince them to write the script, and Mel Gibson loved it, but still, even after that, for years they couldn't get money to make it, and so somehow Jason Reitman ended up getting in touch with David Sachs, who was one of the I don't know if he's a creator.
He was
of
a
PayPal,
co-creator of PayPal.
Yeah, and they just sold it, and so he was pretty well off and bought the rights from Mel Gibson and moved forward with Jason Reitman. He let Jason Reitman stay on board as the writer-director, and they went forward to make the movie. So it took quite a bit of time, but they did get going on it and made it as an independent film for $7.5 million. It premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, and it was received very well. And after, I guess there's a little bidding war, but Fox Searchlight ended up with it, and I think they paid more than it cost to make. I think they paid, I want to say, $8 million to buy the rights.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting that, 2 points. First of all, it comes back to Tom Cruise not being happy with something.
Yes.
That Tom Cruise apparently, the Katie Holmes, Aaron Eckhart dalliance was apparently much more nude.
Actually, I'll tell you a story about that. Jason Reitman talked about it on the commentary.
That it was not more nude and mostly people just made up stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What happened when they showed it at Toronto Film Festival? The sex scene, the crazy humping scene.
It's really funny.
It is a very
funny scene.
It's right at the start of the third reel, and when the projectionist was assembling the film, putting all the reels together, he thought that it was just part of the leader, and chopped off that whole sex scene, thinking that there wasn't anything there. I don't know what they missed, but anyway, accidentally chopped it off. Showed the film. Jason Reitman made a comment that something was missing to the audience, and that it was a sex scene. And it started this, fervor. Everybody wanted to see this missing sex scene, and that started the rumor. Oh, Tom Cruise thought it was too lewd and didn't want his wife seen in it and all this stuff, and had it pulled, and that's how the rumors all started. But Jason got the projectionist to put the bit back on, and all the other screenings had it.
Well, let's be clear.
Yes.
This is one of those cases where that rumor is far more believable than the truth.
That's true.
There was one other thing I wanted to say on that, and I have now forgotten. Oh, I think it's important to note. I think it's important to note that there was that there was no actual smoking of a real living character in this film.
Right. Or I guess that's true. I was gonna say or a dead character, but
we have the only smoking that was actually displayed was from the film, the old films that they had
John Wayne
displayed,
film, right.
Sands of Iwo Jima. So I think that's an interesting thing when you look at a movie, and I think that goes to the point about the movie not being about smoking. It really sets the whole atmosphere of what the film is supposed to be about. You don't see anybody smoking. He's moved past that
right.
in the telling of the story. I think it was great. But
it was really interesting, and although it's funny, something my wife oddly picked up on, because after he recovers from his kidnapping and having been covered in nicotine patches, the doctor tells him that he's going to have to quit smoking and he'll smoke again. And my wife was just like, I didn't know he smoked. We've never seen him smoking. It's just like, well,
right.
The director didn't want anybody smoking. So, yeah.
It's perfect.
The, interesting little decision to make. And, some people actually criticized him, saying that, you're making an anti-smoking statement by not showing anyone smoke.
Probably.
Well,
what did he say? What does he say?
He said, I'm not making an anti-smoking statement. I'm making a statement about, choice.
I'm not making a smoking statement. Like, there is no statement about smoking here.
Right. There's nothing. It's, people are just making something out of it. It's like what you said earlier about the things that you choose to to not show because it's just going to cloud the story. No pun intended.
Yeah. That was good, the cloud thing.
Yeah, you like that?
I did.
The film actually, it had a different ending when they shot it. And, they realized after they shot it that it was really not the right ending to have, and so they put the current ending on, and I think it was a very smart decision. It's a scene where after his speech in front of the committee, he comes outside and BR tells all the press that yes, he's our boy, he's gonna keep doing it, and Nick is in agreement. He's like, yep, I'm gonna keep helping the smoking industry and all that. His son comes out and stands next to him, pulls out a pack of cigarettes and puts a cigarette in his mouth. And then his dad, Nick, sees the cigarette and is like, no! And he smacks the cigarette out of his son's mouth. The cigarette falls. All the photographers, of course, are taking pictures of him smacking the cigarette out of his son's mouth. And then Big Tobacco decides they need to let him go because he's now sending the wrong message. And then the rest of the ending is the same. Big Tobacco ends up, closing down and all that sort of stuff. But it's an interesting little change to the ending that really kind of would have affected the story. And Jason Reitman talks about it, saying, the problem with that ending is it's reflecting that the son, anything from all of this that the father's been talking about. So it's an interesting ending, but it's one that I think they made the right decision to not have.
That's right. I think because if the lesson of the movie, in large part, comes in the lessons of the son, and as much as Naylor's, it would have made Naylor's political speech at the end way too literal. Yeah,
it would have just kind of ruined the point there. So it's a great movie. I just love watching this movie. It's so funny. It's so sharp. It's such an interesting look at a world that, frankly kind of scares me. This world of lobbyists and these talkers that just sell these decisions that really are ones we're not that going to be that happy with. But these people know how to do the spin, It's a very interesting world.
It is a very interesting world. We're taking on a different sort of world next week with another Reitman film, Up in the Air.
Yes. one of my favorites. I just absolutely love this film.
I haven't seen this film as many times as I've seen Thank You for Smoking. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I think I've maybe seen this 4 or 5 times, but it's not one that I've watched really carefully. So I'm looking forward to digging into it this week.
It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah,
it will be a great film to revisit. A little depressing.
Yeah, it's kind of a downer in a different way than this movie is a downer.
Right, exactly.
It's a much more personal film. I think it's fascinating. So I can't wait to talk about that. We are. I will be coming to you from the lake next week. I'm very excited about the lake. I have this. I have my whole rig set up. I got my laptop. Got the mic. I'm ready to podcast from vacation.
Wow,
yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Here's hoping.
I want to do that.
You should come to the lake. It's too hot where you are right now. You should come.
It is pretty miserable here.
All right, we're gonna work that out.
Yes.
Maybe we'll do another hangout very soon. People, stay tuned. People, we're gonna keep you notified this time. We did the first hangout was a little bit of a test, so the next time around we're gonna do. We'll have more notice about when we're going to be doing our next hangout. We would love you to join us, so we'll open it up and have more questions, more interactivity. Very excited about it.
It's going to be fun.
All right, catch you next week.
Have a good one.
Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete, and to be honest, it's a lot of work too. But it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us, even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page, where we've listed every movie that we've talked about paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on The Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series, because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club.
To our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support The Next Reel and our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we've put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?